All right, Steve, thank you for being here. And thank you for donating and volunteering your time to help others.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Well, I want to welcome all the 50 or so of you who have come right on time to join us. And it's an honor to announce Steve, who is going to be here and share his experience here as the first guest honorary speaker at Tinnitus Triumphs. This is a summit which is led by patients because what we've learned in our community, in the tinnitus community, is that messages of hope and encouragement are so needed, as many are told there's nothing you can do for tinnitus, where uh, this summit is here to change that message. So, with this in mind, every speaker will share their tools that they used. They will share some advice that they have for all of you. And then finally, some words of encouragement. We're also joined today by Dr. Suzanne May, who is an audiologist on our team at Treble Health, who worked with Steve. So, Dr. Suzanne, when you'd like to come on, please join us. Steve, let's start with an explanation of where you are today and where you were when you were having some difficulty with tinnitus and reached out to Treble Health and eventually started working with Dr. Suzanne. So just bring us through a quick introduction into your full story,
Sure.
and so everyone can get acquainted with that.
Okay. Well, where I am today is 90% better than where I was. And on some days I'm 100% better. So it all started with one morning in January of 2022. I woke up and I had a sense, kind of a tingling in my ears, kind of a buzz. And it's not something that I hadn't heard before. I felt like it was noticeable. It was something that I had experienced in the past, but it wasn't that loud, right? I also had a stuffy nose, and I thought it was just a regular head cold, but that really wasn't the case. After a couple of weeks, um, it persisted, and with that persistence came my anxiety, and I got all stressed out and worried about it, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And I went to a number of audiologists. I got hearing aid. I got tested for my hearing, which was perfect, at least from the standpoint of most tests go. So there really was no answer for me other than just give it some time, or you'll learn to live with it. And that's like the last thing you want to hear. So it just became more and more anxious about it. And during that time, my state of mind went down. I became very depressed. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. And it just kind of got worse from there. So that's when I started to reach out, and I came across you guys. And I called you up and scheduled an appointment. And then I guess we can go from there. And then I guess my road to recovery started soon thereafter.
Excellent. Now I'd like to bring in Dr. Suzanne May, who worked with you, Steve. So, Dr. Suzanne, would you like to comment on what you saw when you first met Steve, and also some of these common themes when patients do arrive to us?
Yeah, I met Steve when he joined Treble Health, and he definitely was what we would call stage one of habituation, which is that kind of first fight or flight stage with having some anxiety, very worried about his tinnitus, and how it was going to affect his life, and wanting to get some tools on how to get himself into a better place with his tinnitus. So that's where we started, and we worked together for, I forget how long we worked together for.
About 3 months,
Um,
four
about three
months.
months. Yep. And he did get sound therapy on his ear, and that helped him immensely. And he can talk about that a little bit more. And we got to a place where he was feeling like he was in stage 4 of habituation, where I'm not worried about my tinnitus. My anxiety is lower. My emotional reactions are lower, and I'm back to everyday activities. So
All right. So Steve, tell us about that journey, and specifically for everyone who's here wanting to learn, how did you do it? Right. So first we'll talk about what are the tools you used, and
Mhm.
then you can give some advice to others who are in a similar place, and then some words of encouragement. So what tools were beneficial to you in your tinnitus treatment?
Well, there's a number of things, but I would say, Ben, first and foremost, was the education and the confidence I got from Suzanne, and being very open and honest with me, and telling me that it will get better. And having Suzanne having tinnitus herself and been through it, I felt like there was someone I could really entrust, and I trusted her, and she explained to me how it works, the process works. And the more I would ask her questions, she would be always available for those questions, and when my panic attacks were happening. And so the education was extremely valuable. Not only that, just hearing all the positive stories that I've seen on your channel, hearing other folks explain how they were in such a bad place as I had been experiencing, but they got better and they improved. And it was something that happens regularly. It happens. The habituation process will occur. It's your brain's way of taking the time to fix itself in a sense. And so for me, it turned around when I believed that, when I finally believed that, okay, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It may not happen a week from now, but just being aware that in time it will. And I was able to settle down. And when I did settle down, I started to notice a difference. And that difference came in brief moments of, like, I don't hear it anymore. Like, it was gone at that moment. And I was having a conversation with someone, and I just still remember to this day that the first time, like, I had to like look for it, like, oh my God, that's what it's like. That's what I get it now. And then that just kept on happening. And it happened with the help of, I had ear level sound generators on, which helped distract my brain and helped distract the noise. And I relied on that for a while, but knowing that it was most likely a temporary thing. And it ended up being a temporary thing until I got over that anxiety and that hump. And slowly but surely, that the anxiety came down, and actually the periods of not hearing it increased, into the point where it was, some days I don't have it at all. Now, it also, I know some people don't, if you're in a bad state, I was totally there. I totally understand. And it's extremely loud. It's in your conscious. It's constantly there. You can't think of anything else. I mean, that's really what it was dealing with. But it does fade away. It fades away into the background, to the point where a lot of times it's not there, and I don't really hear it. It's true. I don't really hear it. I could hear it if I want to, but it's so much softer. And I just, just knowing that, hearing that from all the people, and experiencing myself, was just, it was a breakthrough. And I couldn't have done it without the help of Suzanne and you guys, really, the education, and really just understanding the process, knowing that it's going to happen, and just trusting it, and having that time to trust it. And that's when it happened. And that's when I started to get improved.
Let's go on the education point, because what we know is that when the brain categorizes tinnitus as a potential threat, a danger, life-threatening, or unknown, it can take the sound that may have just been there and make it louder, more on our focus, harder to think about anything else. So I'm asking both of you, how did that process go in terms of those important pieces of what is tinnitus? Can I have my questions answered about this? Can I start to understand why I have this, the cause of it? I'd like to ask you both there, because education is a big tool, not only just to feel better, but really to promote this treatment effect. So what do you all think about that?
Well, I'll start, Suzanne. I mean, I had a lot of questions. I was familiar with tinnitus because my dad has Meniere's disease, and he had experienced it for many years. And so I knew what it was, and I always had a fear of it as a kid. So when this happened to me, it just kind of like it was like the worst thing, and I was afraid of it. And that anxiety kind of made it worse. Like you described, it really became the focus. Really, for me, asking Suzanne questions, I always had questions. Is it going to get worse as I get older? And I was for me, I woke up one morning with it. It just came out of the blue. So I wanted to understand, where it came from, why me, what happened to cause it. And so I went down that rabbit hole and was trying to figure it out. I went through an ABR test, audio brainstem response test. I went through more tests than I probably needed to do just to try to uncover. To this day, I really don't know what sparked it in that morning, but nonetheless, it was here. So those questions, that education, hearing Suzanne explain to me from how it works with the sound, I was actually getting new sounds because I was so focused on it, and I was so worried. I started hearing more sounds that I hadn't heard before, and then I was asking her about those, and eventually those faded away again. And I think that was like she was explaining to me, that was your brain like thinking like you have to hear these other things, because I was trying to hear something to try to hear it, and your brain was really, okay, here's a sound, you really want to hear this thing. And that's kind of like explain how that works, and she'll do a better job of explaining that part. But anyway, I'll let Suzanne fill in the blanks here.
I'd just say that you know, being a tinnitus specialist and having tinnitus myself, like I have not only the personal experience, but the expertise experience, and just being able to answer any questions that came along, and being able to, you know, give examples from other patients that I had worked with in the past. I think that helped a lot. My own personal experience, that helped a lot. I'm always a big fan of explaining anatomy and how things work inside the body, because I feel like that really answers a lot of questions. And we had a really good rapport and back and forth. And that's actually one of the best parts about Treble Health, is having that communication with your provider to answer all your questions as you're going through this process.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you do for work? What's your profession?
I'm a pharmacist.
So how did that knowledge affect your journey here with tinnitus? And that can just be as a scientist, learning, researching, and then also as someone who might wonder, you know, is there a pharmaceutical treatment for this? How did that process go for you?
It probably hurt as much as it helped me, you know, to be honest with you, because having that research and that scientific background, I really tried to uncover what it was that caused this in me. And I think going down that rabbit hole made it worse, right? So it kind of hurt a little bit. But no, I embraced my background as a pharmacist and looking for kind of answers in that realm, but quickly understanding, you know, it actually made me research more and understand the brain a lot more. It was something I hadn't really thought about from a neurological standpoint, and how, you know, from a pharmacist, I'm working in with pharmaceuticals and medicine, and so it's different in terms of a neurological situation. So it made me look into the research. But quite honestly, you know, you guys provide so much education and so much explanation. You do a great job in putting it in layman's terms to understand really what's happening from the mind, the brain, the limbic system, and all the stuff that's related to the generation of the sound, to the anxiety and your relationship with your emotions. That eventually, understanding all of that was really helpful to saying there's the path forward, and that path forward is habituation, and then all these things kind of settle down in time, and so that really helped with my confidence, really.
Mm-hmm. And as much as you'd like to share, do you have any advice for others who may have questions about pills, pharmaceuticals, managing anxiety related to tinnitus? You know, as much as you feel comfortable with, do you have any advice for others in that who have that question? Yeah,
I mean, don't look for a pill to like stop the sound immediately. It doesn't really work that way. If you're going down that, that's not going to be helpful. What is helpful is settling your system, calming your brain down, becoming comfortable with knowing that you're going to be better, that how it is today is not how it's going to be in the future. It just takes a long time to really believe that. And once it starts happening, then that confidence grows. I have no shame in admitting that I did take some pharmaceuticals at the beginning to help me get over the anxiety, right? I couldn't sleep. I was taking sleeping pills and other medications to calm my system down and to help me with that for those first couple of months where it was really dramatic. I had never experienced depression before. I'm always usually a happy-go-lucky guy until this happened. So I got to experience what that was too for the first time. And so I would say the medicines could help from a sleeping standpoint, helping calm you down, anti-anxiety medications, some SSRIs, what works for you, as long as you get to that place of calm and understanding and calmness. Really, that's really the benefit of the medicines. Not necessarily going to stop the sound, but in time, when your system is calm and you start to experience those parts of where it's not there, that's when you grow and you get better and better.
Thank you, Steve. And Suzanne, we'll let you comment here in just a moment. If you all have questions, please find the Q&A section here on Zoom or drop them in the comments and we'll try to answer questions here. But for the next few minutes, I'd like for Suzanne, you to comment on really your perspective on what Steve went through, how it relates to other people. And then we'll have more time, Steve, for you to share other advice and also encouragement.
So Steve definitely went through, I would say, all 4 stages of the habituation process. You'll hear that term talked about a lot. Habituation really is like a decreasing in your physical and emotional reactions to a repeated stimuli. So, the physical reactions of an upset tummy, sweaty palms, the emotional reactions being anxiety or even a little bit of sadness. You do go through the grieving process when you have tinnitus for sure. And so just taking them through and breaking it down step by step of, here is the anatomy of the ear and how it works. And this is what's happening with the brain and how it's perceiving tinnitus. And this is what's happening with the emotional center with tinnitus. And this is, what you're going through this cycle of tinnitus and how to break that down, how to break the cycle, how to use different techniques, how to use the sound therapy. And just, he went through the little stages, which is stage 1, you feel like it's all encompassing surrounding you 100% of the time. And then you start having little moments where you start noticing little breaks away in the tinnitus and start realizing that, okay, things are changing. I think that's when Steve would email me like, okay, it's a different sound. Now what? And then we get to stage 3 where you start noticing longer breaks where like, wow, I've had a couple of days where I've been feeling good and haven't had that reaction. And it's kind of like, I would say this bunny hopping down the hill. He probably didn't recognizes that analogy of where, you're kind of going up and down, but you're always making forward progress to the end goal. And finally in stage 4, where you have an emotional acceptance to your tinnitus, you might hear it, it might still be there, but now you don't have those physical reactions of the tummy upset, the sweaty palms. You have an emotional acceptance to it and say, I have this, but I'm not going to let it have power over me. I'm moving on. And a lot of times the perception of the volume does change when you have that acceptance. So we kind of went through all 4 stages together.
Yeah, that's a great point about the bunny hop down. It's true. You take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and I would get upset about that. But hearing Suzanne explain, it's not a straight level down. It takes time, and you will experience good days, bad days, and quite honestly, I have mornings. Where it's not there at all, and it's so calm, and then I have times where late in the day, if I don't sleep enough, or sometimes I'm exposed to loud sounds, it's more prevalent again. And I know it has that ability to do that. But even when that happens now, when that happens, I know when I wake up, or I know it's going to come back down to that baseline level where it's just normal and where it's barely, in my consciousness. Right. And I want to just, tell everybody, I was really bad. It was really, really bad. I would wake up in the middle of the night, which you mentioned, sweating palms and sweat. I would have night sweats, and my heart would race like crazy. And I was just in a very bad place. I'm not a very big person. I lost like 30 pounds, and I was very, very skinny and I slowly gained weight back during the course of Suzanne was seeing me. I guess maybe that kind of correlated with my improvement. I was getting heavier again. and so it was very bad for me. But just knowing that how I am today, it's not a big deal. It's not really a big deal in my life. On all the things that are to worry about, it's way down there. And it's hard. I wouldn't believe that was possible, to be honest with you. When this first happened to me, I thought it was going to be, this is the way my life is going to be forever, and it's going to change forever. It changed temporarily until your brain realizes and figures things out, and that habituation process takes hold. And it will happen. You just need to understand and be patient with yourself, because I'm not a patient person, and that was the only thing I want to be better tomorrow. But I think that's important message there.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Let's go through some lightning round questions from the audience. First question here is from Pete. Steve, curious, how valuable were the tinnitus maskers? Did they completely distract you from the tinnitus sound all the time? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so they were very helpful. And that was part of like getting over the fear, and having those. It's kind of like just a safe place for me. I would have them set up with an audiologist, local audiologist here, and program them to be in the right zone, the right range, so that I could still kind of hear my tinnitus, but it would mask a little bit. And just having those on just allowed me to just think of other things. And I have birds or crickets, and I feel like I would just take long walks, and I would listen to those things, and I would allow my mind to think of other things. And that really helped. It really was, a way to get over that hump of not constantly focusing on that sound, allowing the sound therapy to mix it up so that you're able to think of other things. It's just normal. You're just walking in the street, and there's birds chirping, or there's crickets, and that you really have to kind of force yourself to do that. I'm going to trick your brain, really. You have to kind of, that's what you're doing. You're tricking your brain. And that the sound therapy played a large role in that. But it didn't last that long. I mean, I had the sound ear generators. I still have them in months. I really don't need them anymore. So keep that in mind too.
Thank you, Steve. All right, next question. How long did it take for things to calm down? This is a question here from the audience here live on Zoom. The question is, Steve, how long did it take for your tinnitus and for things to calm down? This is referring to that initial really intense period where sleep, weight loss, all that you spoke about was affected. How much time did it take?
A good like 3.5 months, 4 months before I started experiencing those breakthroughs where it was not noticeable anymore. And so that was a period for me. And then I would experience that, but then it wasn't just better from that point on. It was up and down, but just little by little experiencing those breakthroughs, and then getting that confidence that I will be better, that it's gonna, that the stories I'm hearing are true, and that what Suzanne's been telling me for all this time is true. Having experienced that happened around about 4 months into the process.
Thank you. All right, this is a question which is, I think, very relevant for us three, but particularly with Steve's background as a pharmacist. What are your thoughts on bioflavonoids? These are herbal supplements and pills that are not prescription pills. They're over the counter, and they're sold for tinnitus. What are your thoughts on bioflavonoids?
Well, I mean, it's not going to hurt you. I don't think it's going to hurt you. I actually took a lot of vitamin B complex, because it's good for nerves. I actually take magnesium, which is also good for helping me relax. And that's part of like that process of just calming your body down. I don't think there's a cure-all over the counter that's going to work for shutting the sound down, but it's not going to be harmful to you, I wouldn't say. But I wouldn't go down expecting to have a cure through that way. Use it more as a supplement to help overall being healthier. I think the vitamins were beneficial to me, just from entrusting that it's good to have the vitamins in my system,
Yeah. All right. Thank you. This question is from Gabriella. Gabriella asks, how did the process go of getting help with tinnitus without having an in-person, one-on-one, real-life interaction with Suzanne or with our team? How did that process go?
Well, I mean, we're on Zoom now, and our classes took place on Zoom, and so it's just as if this is a new world, how we experience. I work from home now for the most part, so this is how daily life is, and to me, it's just as effective. I did see local audiologists who helped me with the ear level sound generator, so I did have that person-to-person contact. But even if I didn't, I mean, Suzanne, I texted Suzanne as well, and she responded that way. To me, it was very effective.
Great. This next question is from Jeff. Jeff asks, and this is for Suzanne as well. Jeff asks, so I assume once you have chronic tinnitus, there's no chance it just leaves. Instead, everyone has to habituate. So weird that there are not different cases where it just leaves. Jeff asks, Suzanne, I'll pitch that one to you.
So in my 20 years of doing this, there have been a few cases I've seen when I worked at the VA where I had patients tell me they didn't perceive the tinnitus anymore, that it felt kind of like behind a door. And like Steve, I have days where it certainly feels like that to me, where my tinnitus is just, I don't hear it. And there are other days where it's there and it just doesn't bother me. So I have had that reported. I would say that's more of a rarity than the norm. Usually it's you're hearing the tinnitus, but it's almost like my laptop fan. Like I hear it, but I don't even care about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I can add too much to that, but I would say, like, if where you perceive the noise is at a certain level, over time it does get softer, and so it may get so soft that it's below that level of awareness, and that could be just as I don't really experience it anymore.
Here's a great question. And before I ask this, Steve, what were the results of your hearing test? Do you have good hearing, normal hearing, some hearing loss?
Yeah. So I have really good hearing. It turns out I have hearing of like a 30-year-old, which is a lot younger than I am. So that was really good to know. However, I went to the audiologist who specialized in tinnitus locally here, and I found out that there was a dip in the very high extended frequency levels around like 12,000. There's a dip in one. So that's, there is some issue there in terms of that extended high frequency range, which, that's sort of normal, I guess.
Yeah. So Janine asks, I have near perfect hearing and I have bothersome tinnitus. My 84-year-old mother is almost deaf and has absolutely no tinnitus. How do you explain that? So we explain that because tinnitus is neurological. It's related to the ear, but just a small amount of hearing loss can be a part of why someone has tinnitus. And then that neurological tinnitus can become bothersome, louder. So the conditions are related, but having a significant hearing loss does not mean one has significant tinnitus. And Steve, you have a similar history there. Well, I'd like to just ask one last time, Steve, what are your final words of encouragement and advice here on the Tinnitus Triumph Summit for all of our listeners who are here to learn from you?
I would just reiterate again that have confidence that you will get better, because you will. I mean, I've experienced that, and all the folks that I relied on to hear the positive stories that they had to tell, either through your videos or others, I believed them, and then I started to experience it myself, and just know that you will get better, and however you feel today just is not the same way it's going to be. I remember saying, how I hear it now is that way it's going to sound in a few years from now. It won't, and it's true. It was actually a few months later, and it's not the same. It's really better. So stay positive, be confident that in time your brain will correct itself, if you will correct that. But you have to do the best job that you can do is just stay calm and know that it will get better, and try to best to distract your brain, distract your mind, and do things that you love, do things that you enjoy, and just say, oh, it's there now, but it'll get better later, because it will.
Excellent. Let's give a big thank you to Steve and Dr. Suzanne May. Thank you both so much, and great job, Steve. Keep it up. Still more progress to be had.
Sure.
You guys are all set. I'm going to turn your videos off, and thank you all so much. This is the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit, and I'm your host, Dr. Ben Thompson with Treble Health. This summit is hosted by Treble Health. We have a team of audiologists providing tinnitus services, providing one-on-one tinnitus care, and we're the nation's leading tinnitus care provider via telehealth all of the stories we're featuring today are individuals who worked with a Treble Health provider, who worked within our program. And as we're now getting ready for the next speaker, wanted to just introduce Treble Health. So up next, we have a special topic of managing tinnitus, which can be partly somatosensory, as well as multi causes of tinnitus that lead to some complexity, however, still finding relief through that. So I'm really happy to bring on our next two guests. We have Tamara and Dr. Tracy Peck-Holcomb. So I'm going to ask you both to start your video here, and we'll begin with a quick introduction there. Great, Tamara, thanks for being here. If you could please introduce yourself to our summit here and give a quick backstory of where you are today and where you were when you found us at Treble Health.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Tamara. I'll start with, the beginning. I'll start with the beginning. I found out that I was suffering from tinnitus in March of 2022. I later found out that it was related to a head trauma that I had received. And the first couple of months were really rough, just kind of figuring out what exactly it was, if there was a treatment, if there was a cure, and then trying to find help. And I came across Treble Health, I believe in either the end of March or the beginning of April, got paired up with an audiologist, and then I began my journey of habituation. I'm now a year in, and I'm definitely not where I want to be yet, but I am way better than I was in the beginning. Just to give you an idea, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think when I started, I was probably at a 9 or 10 out of 10. And now on an average day, I say I'm sitting somewhere around a 5.
Thank you, Tamara. And I'd also like to introduce Dr. Tracy Peck-Holcomb. Tracy, tell us about your role in Tamara's journey with tinnitus.
Well, Tamara is like one of my favorite patients. I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but she has just, this process, as you'll hear from all of the speakers over the next couple of days. There are times when things move really fast and you make huge leaps and huge progress, and that's super motivating. And then there are times when it's not as fast and you feel like, okay, what's going on? And so Tamara, the work that we do is very collaborative. It's a partnership. You're constantly trying to kind of modify and change things and adapt things depending on where the patients are at and what might be going on. There's so many variables involved in how bothersome or not bothersome tinnitus can be on any given day, week, or month. And I think Tamara's down for anything. So it's down to try different things, down to, and I think that back and forth and working so well together, it's been so great to work with her and see her progress so far and know that she's going to get where she ultimately wants to be. So, yeah.
All right. So let's have you all talk about what were the causes, what were the different factors involved, because we know that not all tinnitus is the same. And there's hundreds of people who will watch this or who are here live who want to know, okay, Tamara's story is inspiring. Does it relate to me? Am I similar? Can what she used be helpful for me? So could you all comment on some of the different causes or the different factors involved in why you have tinnitus, Tamara, and other things that were going on?
Well, I mean, speaking just for myself, I think that because I did have that pretty hard blow to the head, I learned that my tinnitus is somatosensory. So it's connected to, the musculoskeletal system. And there are definitely stressors, physical stressors that make it worse, whether it's muscular pain, whether it's bad posture, whether it's stress. Those types of things really affect my tinnitus in a big way.
Yeah, I was going to say that addressing that piece and having that be part of Tamara's sort of treatment approach. So in addition to obviously the sound therapy and the counseling and stress reduction and all the other things we do, for her, a big part, especially in the beginning, was addressing tension, tightness, pain in the jaw, in the neck, in the upper shoulders, and noticing kind of the trends with that when things were really consistent and regular with addressing those things, how that affected overall the tinnitus in itself. And doing those things consistently, I think made a big difference, especially in the first few months, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So with that context in mind, Tamara, what were the tools that you used that provided some relief at the beginning? And then tell us about how those tools evolved, or how you got better over time by using tools, and whether that be physical actual tools, devices, or more strategies.
Yeah, I think it was kind of multi-layered. Like addressing the physical part was probably the easiest part, because you can go get a massage, or you can go take a walk. You can change your mattress to, support your posture. Once you figure out the physical part, it's the other parts, I think, that take a little bit more work. Decreasing stress, that's always going to be extremely difficult. Like everybody has stress in their life, whether it's big or small. That's really difficult to try to remove that element completely. And then I think the big piece was the sound therapy, getting my maskers. I think when I started using the sound therapy, that's when I made the biggest jump in improvement. Having the maskers in all the time, my brain just started to adjust differently. So when you add all of those things together, using the maskers, having constant sound therapy, addressing my body issues, which I did through massage, through chiropractic adjustments, and then just trying to decrease my overall stress level. Having to do all of those things at once is a lot, but if you don't do all of those things, you're not gonna get the results that you want. So you kind of just have to do everything, and like all of it all at once.
And tell us about which of those tools provided some immediate relief versus which of those tools maybe brought up feelings of, I don't know if this is going to work for me, but I'm just going to keep trying at it. And then eventually you realize, oh, wow, that was useful.
Well, in the beginning, you kind of just throw everything at it until you find something that sticks. So I did acupuncture, like traditional acupuncture, which I no longer do. I did cranial sacrotherapy, which I no longer do, because I just found that those things were not working for me. But the things that did stick were having regular massages and doing chiropractic adjustments. Those things I still do till this day. And I do notice the days that I have treatment, sometimes my tinnitus will change after the treatment and become a little bit easier to manage. And then the maskers are a staple. I barely ever take them out. I have them in all the time. So sound therapy is the biggest key, consistent sound therapy.
And Dr. Tracy, what are your thoughts on the different tools that were beneficial? And maybe was there some trial and error in terms of, okay, let's try this, let's analyze the results. Tell us about your perspective.
Yeah, I think, the initial fitting of the devices, her tinnitus maskers, getting that sound therapy going, getting that initial relief, like kicking the process off, taking the edge off of just allowing to be able to like take that deep breath and have a little bit of relief. That gives you the bandwidth to be able to then try other things. And yes, it's definitely trial and error. What works for someone in terms of the stress reduction piece of it, the cognitive behavioral piece of it, the improving sleep, like what strategies work for one person might not work for another. So there is a little bit of trial and error in putting together like the plan for each patient and what's going to work. And then it's just a matter of, once you figure those things out, it's doing it consistently. And I think consistency is like one of the key words with all of this. And so, once you have your sort of list of things that help, doing them doing them regularly, keeping that going is what's going to yield the best results. And being flexible enough to know that that list will change over time too.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you just said that was really important was, once you get the relief that the sound therapy provides, then you can tackle all of those other things that are super hard to do when you don't have the relief. When you have this screaming noise in your ear, you can't do cognitive behavioral therapy. You can't swallow any of the work because you're so agitated. But once you get the sound therapy going consistently and you feel like you can take a breath, then you can tackle the actual work.
We have a question about sound therapy coming from the audience, which is, Tamara, did you keep your maskers in even if your tinnitus was low? And then a second question there for Tracy, which is, should someone be wearing the tinnitus maskers all the time, or until what point should they stop wearing them?
Okay, well, it is difficult when I'm having days that the sound is not super obnoxious and it's really low. You don't want to have them in because you want to enjoy, the time that you're not hearing this noise, but you have to stay consistent. Even when it's low, you have to keep your sound therapy on and just put it at a lower volume. One thing that worked for me was, instead of having the pink noise from the maskers, on the days that it's really good and I don't feel like having the pink noise, I just put instrumental music on super, super low. Because one thing that you don't want to happen is to start getting agitated by your sound therapy, because then that's just doing the opposite of what you want it to do. So I changed up and I put some really soft music on the days that it's good. That way I can still keep my maskers in on the days that it's really good.
Mara has it down, man. She's got it. She knows what to do. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, basically she just said exactly what I was going to say, which is you do want to still use your sound therapy, even on days where, your tinnitus is really low, which you will have those days. And you want to still get some sound therapy in, but you can change it up, right? It's changing it up to a different type of sound that's more pleasant, maybe more just kind of something that you're using that you really enjoy listening to. But you do want that consistency even on those good days, because we really want to, facilitate that long-term habituation. And if you're up and down with it, then your brain, you never get into that kind of pattern. So you don't have to necessarily do as many hours. You don't necessarily have to use your primary sound, but you still want to get sound therapy in every day.
All right, let's now ask Tamara a more general question of, for others in a similar place as you were, what is your advice? Because we know some people listening and watching are currently in a place where you were, where you needed help and you got that help. What is your advice to others in terms of things they can try, mental strategies, and just the motivation as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, really tough place to be in. And it's really hard to take advice when you're in that place, because it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. All you are taking in is that feeling that you're scared, you're frightened, you're annoyed, you don't know what's happening. But all I can say is, you are going, even as you get better, and you will get better, there are going to be back and forths. You're going to have great days and you're going to have some rough days. I still have some rough days, but when you have those good days, I just tell myself, this is what it's going to be like. Eventually, all of my days are going to be like this. If I'm experiencing this really good day where it's like a 2 out of 10, that's where we're headed. That is the benchmark. That's where we're going. It's not going to stay where you're at if you do all of the things that you're supposed to do. If you do your cognitive behavioral therapy, if you do your sound therapy, that needle is going to continue to move. So take those good days as a flashlight that's moving you towards that tunnel. Like, you are going to get there. You're not going to be stuck in that dark place forever. It will move. You just have to put the work in.
And what kind of encouragement would you have for someone who maybe has experienced some relief? Maybe they're feeling 20% better, but they're not at their resolution. They're not where they want to be. And maybe you're in that type of middle ground right now, but what kind of encouragement do you have or perspective do you have for that stage?
You know, it's hard, because as much as I feel like I've got it, there are days where I don't got it. And I think it's okay to have those days. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself and to have your feelings. But once you're through, pick yourself up and just keep going. You've already experienced relief, so you know that it's possible. So know that where you're at, it's still possible to experience more relief. So I think for me, I try to find things that help me focus on something other than my tinnitus, because it is consuming. It can consume you, and it can make you feel like you don't want to go outside, or you don't want to hang out with your friends, or you don't want to go to work, or whatever it is. But go outside and take a walk. Find a hobby that you can focus on. Paint by numbers. Get a coloring book. Go, get a jump rope. Do whatever. Do something that will help you focus on something other than the tinnitus. That's all, that's all you can do, because it's not going to disappear in the snap of a finger. You got to find a coping mechanism.
Love that. Dr. Tracy, jump in here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think just the two key things that she hit on that are so important is to allow yourself on the days where you're having a tough day, or a day that, isn't as, great as a lot of the days are in the later stages of this, that it's okay to acknowledge that that's a tough day. And there are better days coming, and you have strategies that you can use that can help you manage through that day. And then I think the second thing is that, and in the later stages, I think what's really helpful is to engage in activities that direct your attention and shift your attention elsewhere. It's because we know the brain can only pay attention to so many things at one time. So if we are having a tougher day with it, we know there's going to be ups and downs, even in the later stages, right? We're looking at this from a bird's eye view. We're looking at this from the big picture. We know there's better days overall than tough days. And on the days where it's tough, it's about, implementing strategies, engaging in activities that are going to shift your attention and focus away from the signal, which helps overall promote that positive neuroplasticity that we're looking for. And when you do that consistently and proactively, before you get super annoyed, before you get super frustrated, what that does is it takes the edge off of the tinnitus. It takes your attention away from it. And it's really helpful in kind of moving through those days. I think, giving the brain something else to focus on, not letting ourselves sort of sit in that space where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated by this, right? Because all that does is negatively reinforce to the brain that we need to continue to pay attention to the tinnitus. So I think in the later stages, it becomes more about directed attention, shifted attention. And we were talking the other day, and so many patients of mine have talked about how the weather's getting warmer. Now we can kind of get outside, get some sunshine, do things, which we know helps too. So summertime's, a good time.
I just want to say one thing. When you have an invisible disability that people can't see, sometimes we tend to put a face on. You don't want people to know that you're hurting, or that you're in pain, or that you're upset. You put a face on and you hold everything in. One thing that I have learned is to stop putting that face on. If I need help, ask for help. If you have friends, lean on them. If you have family, lean on them, because the more help that you get, the more you're going to be able to take care of yourself. So stop putting that face on, because people can't see tinnitus. They don't know if I'm hurting. I might be smiling, but I'm in pain. So lean on the people around you. because you need to be able to take care of yourself. So just lean on the people around you so that you have some support.
Who did you lean on? Who was available for you, Tamara?
I'm fortunate. I have so many people in my life that I can lean on. I have a supportive husband. I have my mom. I have my mother-in-law. I have my amazing girlfriends that would drop anything for me and run if I need them. So I have my brother. I have tons of people that I can lean on. And in the beginning, I didn't even have to. They were just there. I did not even ask. People just showed up. But as you get better, as you get up and start getting out and you stop saying no to invitations and you start getting up and out again, people kind of assume that you're just okay. And if you're not okay, it's okay to say that you're not okay and to ask for help.
Love that. We have about 5 more minutes here. So we want to make sure there's plenty of time for question and answers. We have one question here coming in, Tamara, which is, and just thank you again. Your service here is so appreciated, helping many, many people. The question here is, can tinnitus change positions in your head? One time the sound is on the left side, other time it's on the right. And also for you, because you have some somatic, some physical element to the cause of your tinnitus, how did you deal with the changes of the sound based on different body postures?
Yeah, I mean, my tinnitus changes daily, sometimes more than once in a day. I have several different noises that appear. There could be, I think I've got about 5 of them at the moment, and it changes daily. Some of them I wake up and I'm like, yes, I can deal with this one today. Some of them I still cannot stand, but with the sound therapy, it's definitely helpful. And mine does change from ear to ear, mostly in my left, but I do get it in my right sometimes. And then I do get it in both sometimes. But the sound therapy you have to just do the sound therapy regardless of if it's in one ear, both ears, switching back and forth. Just be consistent with the sound therapy.
Dr. Tracy, any thoughts for words of encouragement here for others who are in a similar position as Tamara was?
Well, just to piggyback off what she said, I think this is not as well known in tinnitus, and kind of some of the stuff that you'll see online is that fluctuations in not only just the volume, so that's talked about a lot. I'd say that's a pretty common thing, but changes also in the types of sounds that you hear, especially as you go through the stages, it changes. Tinnitus shifts in what it sounds like, the sounds you have, where you locate it, the quality of the sounds, all of that fluctuates, and it's completely normal and part of the process. And in general, a positive sign that, we're reaching the areas of the auditory cortex that we need. We're making changes. There's shifts happening. Sometimes we don't love the shifts as much as others, but that it's normal and it's not an indication that anything bad is happening. It's part of the process. I think that's something that is not as well known. And so when things change, the initial reaction typically is worry or concern. And like, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm regressing? Does that mean I'm, having a setback? And that's not the case at all. And so I think being prepared and knowing that ahead of time and framing it that way helps to make it less scary. And then it's about using the tools that you have, right, to be able to get that relief and have it not be as, irritating. Yeah, it's a process, right, Tamara? It's a process.
It's definitely a process. I don't have a lot of the sounds that I started out with. I don't have any of those anymore. They're completely different, and they're still changing now. So they come and they go, but yeah.
So let's end this session here in just the next 2 minutes with any final words of encouragement for others here in our community, others who are here to learn about tinnitus triumphs. And I feel that one theme that we have as part of the summit here is that this is a game of inches. This is an ultra marathon. So it's an ongoing process, and a 30% improvement in a period of time is successful. That is something we are celebrating. Is the work done? Are we at our goal? No, not necessarily. So talk to us about some last words of encouragement for where you are today. And again, a big thank you for joining us.
I think I need some words of encouragement sometimes, but I mean, listen, it took me a long time to realize that this was something that I was going to have to work through. I wish that I could snap my fingers and that it would be gone, but that's not going to happen. So the only thing that I can do is whatever is in my power to push my habituation forward. I came across, like, not too long ago, I felt like I was stuck, like the noise wasn't moving. It was consistently kind of plateauing. And Tracy suggested, let's start over from the beginning with your CBT. Do all the things that we were doing in the beginning. Go back to your meditation. Go back to all the things you did in the beginning to calm it down. And maybe that will jumpstart it again. And that's exactly what we did. And then it started to move again. So all I can say is put the work in and you'll get the results. I know that when you're feeling down and the tinnitus is bothersome, the last thing you want to do is put the work in, but you have to put the work in because you don't want to be in this place forever. You want to habituate, you want to get to stage 4. So put your work in and you'll get there. I'm hopeful that I will get there. So, just pat yourself on the back for what you've done and just keep going.
Let's all give a big thank you to Tamara for volunteering her time. We see lots of hearts and applause coming here on the live session. So Tamara, thank you again. We're here with you and we hope to check in some months in the future and hear about more progress.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Tracy, as well, for working with Tamara through her journey. All right, so we have a few minute break here before the next presentation. I just want to review the schedule here. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Thompson. I'm the host of Tinnitus Triumphs, this patient-led summit. I'm also the founder of Treble Health. All the individuals here have worked with Treble Health via telehealth. And here's the schedule here. We just completed earlier Steve's presentation, Steve's guest appearance about daily sound therapy. Next, and then we had Tamara here about somatic tinnitus management. Up next, we have James, who will discuss a really exciting topic, tinnitus retraining therapy in practice. And then finally, I'll present about a tinnitus relief checklist. As we get set up to start the next presentation, I do just want to share that this event is sponsored by Treble Health. And the main treatment, the main product, the offer that we have, how we help our patients is with something called the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. And I just wanted to talk about how our team of audiologists created this bundle. And then specifically, we have a special offer for you and just to celebrate the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. So you can see here on the screen that this is a bundle that is a collection of different technologies that promote sound therapy, as well as access to expert care from an audiologist on our team. So we've learned by studying research and over years of experience, as collectively our audiologists have about 50 years of tinnitus specialized experience between our whole team. And between our experience and the evidence, the research of tinnitus retraining therapy, we know that the combination of expert care, one-on-one, plus sound therapy is what is needed and provides most of the treatment effect to get patients to a place where their tinnitus isn't bothersome and often is reduced in intensity or volume. So that is how we created the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. And if anyone would like to learn more, we have a special offer, special discounted offer for the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. If you're in the United States, you would qualify. Just head over to treblehealth.com/offer and we're confident and proud of what we do. So as Treble Health being the sponsor of this event, wanted to give a few minutes to explain what we do on our team. All right, next up, right on time, we have James as well as Dr. Sarah Matthews. And in this particular conversation, this particular presentation here, we will talk about tinnitus retraining therapy in practice. So let's start off. James, could you please give us some introduction into where you are today and where you were when you started working with us at Treble Health?
Sure. Well, where I am today is a much, much better place than I was when I came to Treble Health in October, the first week in October, actually. My tinnitus on a scale of 1 to 10 was probably a 7 to 8. I was demoralized. I felt that I had lost my quality of life. It was annoying. It was frustrating. It was all those things. And as Tamara said, I put on a face and, and forged ahead. And I had already seen Dr. Ben. The first video that I saw of Treble Health was Dr. Ben talking about tinnitus, stress, and the limbic system. And it fascinated me. It was the first thing that I had ever seen that really educated me on what was happening to me. My perception of tinnitus was causing a negative reaction. It was sent to the limbic system as a package of stress and anxiety, and the amygdala, the fight or flight response was kicking in, and then it was making the tinnitus even louder. So I felt like, aha, I know what's going on now. So I started watching more and more Treble Health videos and getting more educated. And finally came to the point where I contacted Dr. Sarah for an appointment, and it was upward from there. Where I am now is I think it's exceeded my expectations. Actually, I was somewhat skeptical at the beginning that TRT, tinnitus retraining therapy, could actually do what it's done for me. And I think that it's a bit magical, really, to watch it unfold, because a lot of things happen. Your brain actually does things at a subconscious level. Once you habituate to your reactions, your negative reactions, the rest of it's automatic. And that's what's so incredible about it. And that's what's happened to me. Right now, the sound that I'm hearing is between, I would say, usually between a 1 and a 3. And I've had a lot of days, and I took Tamara's advice in her video. She said she likes to go through her calendar and put down numbers for different days on her, volume. Well, I put down GR for great, G for good, G plus if it's a little bit better than that. I started noticing that about a month and a half to 2 months in, I was seeing a lot more GRs, Gs, and 3 things were happening. And this is what was fascinating to me, really. Number one, the fluctuations or spikes. Dr. Sarah doesn't like me to say spikes. I like to say spikes, but I'll say fluctuation to please her. And it is better, actually, to do it that way. But I stopped having as many fluctuations. The fluctuations that I did have were far less severe, and the volume actually started going down. And that's the part that astonished me, because I really did not expect that to happen. I had heard, well, you'll have changes, and yes, you'll learn to not let it bother you so much. But as far as the volume going down, no, that's kind of a Candyland. It's a fantasy, so forget that. But it's happened for me. I'm here to tell you. And I think if you follow the tinnitus retraining therapy guidelines, if you do consistent sound therapy, and I mean 12 to 16 hours a day is what I do. I put them on as soon as I get up, after I'm out of the shower. I wear them till I go to bed, most days. Now, I've had some days where I've had some sound sensitivity, and I can't wear them that long. And I think, Dr. Sarah told me not to white knuckle it on those days. And I've been doing some protocols for some sound sensitivity issues, but those have gotten better. Those have gotten better along with the tinnitus. So I'm in a great place today. And I think tinnitus retraining therapy has been it's been a revelation for me, and I know that it's really what's brought about the changes that I see, that and phenomenal audiologists.
James, let's bring in your audiologist that you worked with on our team, Dr. Sarah Matthews.
Yes.
Sarah, what kind of history or background that James had is fairly representative of other patients that you see?
I think some of the consistent things that I see across the board is that when he started with us, James was stage 1, stage 2 of habituation, and that's where the majority of our patients are when they start with us. James was also very motivated, which most stage 1 and stage 2 patients are, because this is affecting your entire life. I also think that one of the common things that we don't talk a lot about is that he had some pulsatile tinnitus. And there's this huge misunderstanding in the tinnitus community that tinnitus retraining therapy, sound therapy, can't help with pulsatile tinnitus. So it's not the most common thing we see, but it's really common that we see pulsatile tinnitus patients. And one of the things that I, as a clinician, missed in the beginning was the sound sensitivity piece. And I think that that was there from the beginning, and that's very common for us to see is patients coming in with all of this and then an overlay of some sound sensitivity as well. I think some of the things that were a little different, I'm also going to take this in a different direction. James is a very knowledgeable person, which most of our tinnitus patients are. We know as tinnitus patients, we dive in and we research and we try to figure out what's going on and where do I get help. And the answer of there's nothing that can be done does not sit well with us. So we try to figure it out. By the time James got to me, he'd already read Dr. Jastrovoff's book. And that's a little different than most patients. And I love it because he keeps me on my toes. When we talk about something, I know that he knows what we're talking about. And I know when we start to talk about particular protocols or processes or activities, he already has that underlying foundation of information. And when I do something that's off of protocol, he knows. And we talk about, why are we going to do this little thing different? Or what can we do that brings us back to staying on target with things, because he put in that effort to read the TRT book.
Excellent. And for those who don't know, Dr. Jastrovoff is the founder of Tinnitus Retraining Therapy. There is a book available that he wrote that is available for patients to read, and it's often complementary to what we do. Here we go, a nice plug for the book. And James, let's ask you some questions here. Let's go straight into it. Talk to us about the tools that you used. Let's start with sound therapy. For those who are fairly new or don't have much introduction to it, what is sound therapy? How do you use it? And what has it done for you?
Sound therapy was really key in all this. And I'll qualify that by saying, and Dr. Sarah and I have talked about this too, but you can slap ear level sound generators on anyone, but without the teaching and the counseling piece, you probably won't get very far if you don't understand what's going on. And Dr. Jastrovoff said that in his book, actually. And so sound therapy to me, first of all, is getting even a little bit of relief from that sound that you're hearing, like Tamara said, so that you're freed up to pursue habituation. You can't really, if you have a jet engine in your head, as I have said sometimes when I wake up from a nap, that's how I feel. I hear that jet engine sound, not so much anymore. But if you have that sound going on and you don't have any relief from it, it's very it's very challenging to move forward. So sound therapy was very important to me. As soon as I talked to Dr. Sarah, I realized I needed the ear level sound generators to really move forward at the pace that I wanted to. So I ordered those, and they've been fantastic. I didn't have a hearing loss per se, really. In fact, my hearing test that I sent to Dr. Sarah showed no hearing loss at all. I had a prior one about, well, it was in December of 21 that showed mild hearing loss at upper frequencies, but for some reason I didn't have it in the most recent one. So I got the maskers, the ear level sound generators, and you really, with the pink noise, and I believe pink noise is where the spectrum, every sound on this frequency on the spectrum is equal. Is that right? As opposed to white noise, where the white noise has more upper register. The pink noise, to me, is really hard to detect. Once I set it in the morning, I set it and I forget it for the whole day. I wake up and my volume that day, and I never know what I'm going to get, so my volume that day might be a 3. Well, I still use the sound therapy, only I'm going to put it a notch or two lower than I usually do, so I can still hear the tinnitus signal, but I can hear the sound therapy as well. And that's what I always do. You always want to set your sound therapy right below the threshold at which it starts to partially mask your tinnitus, because your brain has to hear that tinnitus signal as well as the sound therapy in order to make the comparison. And the brain is jury. It has to get that evidence that the tinnitus is no longer bothersome. And shouldn't be treated as important, and then the brain will refile it. And I think that's what's happened in my case. It's refiled the tinnitus in a place where it's not only lower volume now, but it doesn't upset me. I've had a few days where, like I said, I'd wake up from a nap and hear a jet engine in my head. Doesn't bother me in the least. I identified with a video that I saw. A musician named Isabel Anderson said that she went through the treatment, TRT, I believe, and she said, if somebody asked me if they'd like me to, turn the switch off, I'd say, if you want to, that's fine, but don't have to. That's the way I'd like to be ultimately. I still get a little annoyed at times, but I'm almost to the point where I feel that I'm closing in on stage 4. I mean, I've graduated for all intents and purposes, because I don't get upset anymore. It doesn't have a big impact on my life like it did in the beginning. And I feel like, yes, I have times when I notice it more, and times when it flares up, but I can deal with all of those things. And in the very beginning, I had some really, really dark days. I won't trigger anyone. Wouldn't ever want to do that, but trust me, they were bad. I think we've all been there.
James, thank you so much. And we can hear your authenticity and your willingness to share from a vulnerable place here. And I know personally, after speaking with you multiple times, that you found the value in this protocol, this system, tinnitus retraining therapy, and you want to educate others. So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about it for those who may have heard of it, or even for those who don't know anything about it? What do you think are the misconceptions in the world of tinnitus?
Tinnitus itself or TRT?
Let's start with tinnitus retraining therapy, and then we can also comment just on things that people might get wrong with tinnitus, false beliefs that you may have had earlier that now you have a different perspective on.
Sure. I think as far as TRT goes, I've heard people say it's hocus pocus. I've heard people say it's just a delay for real treatment, whatever real treatment is, because there are so many types of tinnitus that you would have to find a cure for. There's not one cure. And I've also heard it said that you'll get addicted to sound therapy, and that certainly isn't true. You know, once you are habituated, you're not really going to have a need to slap those ear level sound generators on, unless you have a point in the future when you have a fluctuation or something. But I think those are all misconceptions. People don't really understand neuroplasticity, and it's a fascinating thing to watch unfold. At least it has been for me, and to hear from other people on Treble Health who have talked about their experiences. But it's not magic. It's not hocus pocus. It's simply new neurons forming as the brain relearns about tinnitus, that it's not a threat anymore, and new neural pathways are forming. And great things start to happen. You start to notice, or well, you start to not notice it, is what happens. You do notice a reduction, definitely, but I think people don't realize how real and how powerful neuroplasticity really is. You know, so that's what I would say about TRT. About tinnitus itself, it's all in your head. You know, you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get over it. You know, I have floaters in my eyes. I have for 30 years. You know, why can't you listen to a little ringing? You know, things like that. And it is true that a lot of people are not bothered by tinnitus. I wish that were the case with me. And I don't know what the percentage is, but I know a lot of people just don't ever get bothered by it. So I think the conception that it's all in your head, or that it's a psychological problem, that I've heard that too, that it's a psychiatric disorder, you know, that it can be, you know, it can be treated with eardrops, you know, garlic, things like that. I have no patience with all those things, and I just loved the video clip that you did. It was a quick one on bogus medications for tinnitus, because there are a lot of them out there. But yeah, tinnitus, it's the woman whose family didn't understand one night in group therapy, who didn't understand her problem with tinnitus, her bothersome tinnitus, really got me right here, because you had to feel for this woman. She was coming from a place of just desolation, because she really didn't have anybody at home that understood what she was going through. And at the same time, you can see how the family, none of whom had tinnitus, would be frustrated at the condition and not really know what was going on. And I think that's where educating yourself comes in. We need to keep reading, you know, as we progress through the TRT process, we need to keep reading, keep learning, and that's what I'm doing. I stay away from the boards, though. Stay away from those boards. They are toxic, toxic, toxic. And, you know, if you can pry yourself away from those and focus on academic literature, books like Glenn Schweitzer that you had on, those are interesting. You know, things like that. Keep reading, keep learning. Watch Treble Health videos. They're so educational and they're so inspirational. I'm just
thank you, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you had shared some tools, mainly sound therapy, working with Dr. Sarah.
My speaker.
Your speaker.
Yeah, at night.
And you mentioned ear level sound generators, which we also call tinnitus maskers, and
yes,
they can also be called hearing aids for tinnitus, but
right,
making sure those are programmed according to the tinnitus retraining therapy protocol. You mentioned that those tools were helpful, as well as the education, learning about this system, taking any what ifs or fears or anxieties out of the equation, and knowing the system, how it works and how to follow it. So those are the tools. Yeah. I summarized those. We're now going to transition into some advice and then finally some words of encouragement. So we have some questions coming in. Here's the first question. James, how long did it take you to get from stage 1, the most intense stage of tinnitus, until where you are now? Let's start there.
I believe, and I'll have to defer to Dr. Sarah here, because I was in stage 2 for quite a while, even though I was doing really well. But I took the tinnitus functional index equivalent, and I had gone from a 68 to maybe a 28 or something like that within probably within 3 months, maybe a little more. Maybe it was for, let's see, October, November, December, January. It was 3 months. It was about 3 months. It was fairly speedy, and I had a concern because I had been tapering off of benzos. I was prescribed clonazepam early in the process to help me deal with the tinnitus while I was going back and forth to Colorado, taking care of my dad's business after he died. And I really got a lot of relief from it for the first 5 or 6 months, but I shouldn't have been on it that long. And, it stopped working, and then I had to taper off of it. And I know Dr. Jastroboff has said that it can interfere with your brain relearning. In my case, I was taking such a small dose that it really didn't that much, but I was really sensitive to it. And I've told Dr. Sarah, every time we've made a cut, I've had a fluctuation that lasts a week at least, and then it goes away. So you have to be really careful with benzos. I would, that's my unsolicited, not advice, but just kind of from one tinnitus sufferer to another. Be really careful. Talk to your doctor, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you. Second question here is for you, James. People say habituated, and you've shown signs of these ongoing stages of relief on the stages of habituation. So not fully habituated, as you've described. Your process here, it's not completely over. We still have more progress that we can get. But how would you describe this ongoing process of more and more habituation to someone who's not too familiar with the term?
I would say that habituation, to me, was reaching the point at which my bothersome tinnitus really didn't bother me too much anymore. And I've really, for all practical purposes, reached that point. I'm in stage 3 solidly, and almost to stage 4. I'm being very cautious here because you don't want to force anything or take anything too fast. But as Dr. Sarah told me and cautioned me at one point, when you get to stage 3, you have to double down. That's where the hard work really begins. You actually don't let up, because if you do, you can backtrack, and I don't want that at this point. So I'm being very careful, but I went from stage 1 to stage 2, sat there for a minute, about 3 months maybe, and then kind of just slid into stage 3. One day I was just kind of amazed that I wasn't upset at the fact that I had a really ugly fluctuation. But I was like, so what? And I'd never done that before. And so I knew that my brain had rewired. I didn't know to what degree, but I knew that the process was working. And I said, thank you, Dr. Jastroboff. And a lot of other people too. So,
absolutely. Dr. Sarah, any input, any pieces of advice here for others who have a similar story as James?
I think the biggest advice is take action. We can help. And that's the thing, is like, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make him drink. So if you've learned all of this and you know that these are options, do it.
Yeah.
I've yet to have a patient that really has massive regret over working through tinnitus retraining therapy and having habituation as that end goal. And that's the biggest advice I can say is, let's do it. Let's make life amazing again for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's what the whole thing is taking back your life. I feel that I've been able to do that thanks to Treble Health, and thanks to tinnitus retraining therapy. Dr. Sarah, Dr. Ben, you all care. And, one thing that was really telling, and I have to say this, and I hope a lot of people are listening, is that Dr. Ben has had on people like Cliff Olson, Julian Cowan Hill, Ed Farrer, Gary, actually, well, I'm trying to remember all the names, but some of them are competitors. And he has these people on because he wants to collaborate with them to share information and help people suffering from tinnitus. That is the ultimate sign to me that Treble Health is in the right place as far as the tinnitus community. And I think it's the best resource out there.
Oh, really appreciate that, James. We're very aligned in that sense. And it's a part of why we do these online summits, because no one person has the answer for every single type of tinnitus.
Right.
There are multiple approaches for a reason, because different approaches work well for different people at different stages. Mm-hmm. What our team tries to focus on is following a protocol, following a system that applies to almost everyone with tinnitus, and then personalize it within the work that we do. And you've shared and you've really highlighted some of that. I want to kick it to you here. We have a few minutes here for you to share your words of encouragement. You've already shared a lot of encouragement, but we can't get enough of it. It's like oxygen in the tinnitus community. So final words of encouragement for others who are listening, and then we'll have my talk here, our next talk, in about 5 minutes.
If you're suffering from tinnitus and you are at a point where you feel like you want to throw in the towel and just live with it, don't. Do what Dr. Sarah said. Take action. There's plenty to do for tinnitus. Don't listen to so-called professionals that tell you there's nothing that can be done. These people are possibly well-meaning, but they're not well-trained. And I ran into quite a few of them. I saw a variety of doctors, a smorgasbord of them, really, and was totally demoralized. And I really believed what they said, that I would just have to live with it. Part of me did. Part of me said, no, I've got to find a solution. I know there's one out there. So I'm glad that I did this, that I did take action. It wasn't easy, but help is out there. You can do something for tinnitus. You can get your life back. And I think once you start the process and you start getting better, you have to be consistent. You have to be mindful, and you have to be positive. Stay positive, because as other people have said, it's not a linear process. You take 2 steps forward and you take a step back, and it's like a roller coaster ride. It's kind of a cruel process in a way, because you get really elated at where you are, and then bam, you're back where you were a month ago. But it's not going to be as long this time. It's going to be increments, and you're going to notice little changes, and it's going to happen. So stay away from the naysayers, stay away from the boards, do something about your tinnitus today. Do something. There's help out there. I don't know how else to say that, but don't just be miserable. You can take back your life. I did.
Let's give a big thank you and warm welcome to James for volunteering his time, as well as Dr. Sarah Matthews with Treble Health. James, keep it up. We know that there's still some progress to be had, so stay focused. And I do tend to believe in karma, and you're giving so much that I know a lot of this will come back to you as well. So keep it up. Yes, so thank you so much. And thanks again, Dr. Sarah, as well.
Thank you both.
If you guys have further questions, I'm sure James is able to help here in the chat. So if you have further questions for him, please let him know in the chat.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So again, this is the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. I'm your host, Ben Thompson, audiologist with Treble Health. Today's guest speakers were Steve, Tamara, James, and then in a few minutes, I'm going to discuss my tinnitus relief checklist, which really applies to what a lot of the people who are sharing their success stories implemented. So I know we've talked a lot about specifics, but it's good to have a quick checklist of some things that you can take a screenshot of or just jot down as notes to start implementing right away. And then tomorrow, we also have 3 guest speakers, guest presenters. We have John talking about tinnitus and hearing loss, Loretta, hyperacusis and tinnitus, Melinda, navigating stress with tinnitus, and then I'll have a presentation on the gold standard of tinnitus treatment and how to get started with Treble Health should you be more interested in our program. As you may know, Treble Health is sponsoring this Tinnitus Triumph Summit. The main offer that we have here is the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. This is our leading treatment that we provide via telehealth. We are the nation's leading tinnitus care provider via telehealth. And as you can see here on the screen, we have different technology that's used for sound therapy, including the tinnitus maskers, which were featured multiple times during the presentations earlier, as well as a high quality sound machine, and even a tinnitus sleep headband. So the combination of these devices, plus expert care by our audiologists at Treble Health, number of one-on-one appointments, as well as access to our group coaching program. This is all put together in what's called the Tinnitus Relief Bundle. And in honor of the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit here, we are offering a special discount, a special offer that's good for a few days. So head over to treblehealth.com/offer to learn more, or reach out to our team through our website and we'll be glad to help. The next presentation here in today's order is the tinnitus relief checklists. So I'm going to get started with that right now. All right, very good. So here's a quick summary, a quick snapshot of the tinnitus relief checklist. Quick introduction to myself. I'm the founder of Treble Health, and this started because I had a patient who drove 4 hours from the mountains in California all the way to San Francisco, where I was working in a tinnitus specialty clinic. And this patient got help for tinnitus. And I realized that all of the appointment could have took place online over telehealth. So that eventually led to starting a YouTube channel and then hiring some of the country's most skilled tinnitus specialists. And today we have a team of 8 audiologists. We're independently owned, and we see hundreds of patients, new patients every month. And we have a very large impact here in the tinnitus community. The reason we're here is to provide the gold standard tinnitus treatment via telehealth for individuals in the United States. And through our YouTube channel and events like this, we are also able to educate the whole world about what is the best leading treatment and the best techniques for tinnitus. So with that in mind, you can get a sense that we have a large sample of what could help someone with tinnitus. And that's being independent. That's ultimately being doctors. That's ultimately what we strive for as audiologists, is to bring the best possible treatment to our patients. And when we see something when we learn about something new, we include it in what we offer. If there's new research to support a certain method versus another, then we adjust and change what we offer. And we've been able to do that over the years as a team and as individuals. And currently today, what we offer at Treble Health with our patients, as well as this checklist here, is based off of what's actually helping people improve their tinnitus right now. Not what maybe is going to happen in 5 years, not some research project that could have promise. What is helping people right now? What is the best treatment today in 2023? What's working? What's moving the needle for our patients? And I came up with this quick checklist because if you can work on these 5 things every single day, if you just focus on these 5 things every single day, I believe you'll start to see big improvements with your tinnitus. It will take time. It is an ongoing process. It's not necessarily a snap of the fingers and your tinnitus is 50% less, but trust me that focusing on these things is important. So number 1 is using sound therapy as a default. Okay. When we talk about sound therapy, what we refer to is our top choice being using these ear level devices, which are called tinnitus maskers. You heard these being featured multiple times. The other piece of sound therapy is going to be using a sound machine. This is a device that can be used during the daytime or at night. And then finally, even simply just to get started, using a smartphone app, like my smartphone that I'm holding here, using that for sound therapy is very, very helpful. So let's go ahead now and just talk about the main thing that I want to address, the main false belief that so many individuals have in the tinnitus community. Okay. So what that is that there's nothing you can do for tinnitus. And unfortunately, this can be sometimes sad to face the reality that many people are told by their doctors, there's nothing you can do for tinnitus. And tinnitus retraining therapy, as we're highlighting here, reports that from a number of centers around the world, they're indicating that there's a high level of effectiveness of this method. And for our most recent talk, we just heard that James himself reported a high degree of effectiveness of following tinnitus retraining therapy. But this is evidence-based, this is scientific. So this is our main goal here for individuals who are learning for what can be done for tinnitus, is to break this false belief of, quote, there's nothing you can do for tinnitus. The 4 stages of habituation were also mentioned tonight, and I just want to explain what those are. So the goal here is to get to stage 4, and this is when you aren't affected by tinnitus anymore. Someone who is in stage 4 will say things like, I rarely notice tinnitus. I can quickly redirect my attention from it. If I do hear it, it doesn't bring up any automatic negative thoughts or feelings. All right. Now, a lot of individuals who are looking for help, who are on the internet, maybe attending this event here, have either stage 1 or stage 2 of tinnitus in the habituation stage. Stage 1 is when there's the highest awareness and annoyance of tinnitus throughout the day, frequent worrying and anxiety. You may have stopped doing everyday activities you once did, like socializing or exercise. And it's often accompanied by loss of sleep or appetite. The goal is definitely to get to stage 4. And no matter where you are here in the first stages, using sound therapy, really using this checklist and using a protocol like tinnitus retraining therapy, working with specialists, you can get to stage 4. And we've seen that over and over, even for cases who say have more challenging types of tinnitus, say they've had it for a long number of years. Yes, them too. There's nothing set in stone, permanently broken with your system, which means that tinnitus can shift. So these are the 5 elements of the checklist that I wanted to cover. The first being sound therapy as a default. All right. Here are some common sounds that we use for sound therapy. Number 1, white noise, pink noise, natural water sounds, even crickets. Our top technology to use would be the tinnitus maskers, followed by a sound machine, potentially a sleep headband, and finally, smartphone apps. There's a research study that found that the continuous use of sound therapy is effective at treating tinnitus. That same study compared using sound therapy with tinnitus maskers versus having sound therapy plus expert care by an audiologist following tinnitus retraining therapy, which includes a number of one-on-one appointments over time. And it found that the tinnitus retraining therapy group showed considerable gains in effectiveness when compared with just the sound therapy alone. So this is why audiologists can help people with tinnitus. This is how it happens. It's through this treatment program that tinnitus can shift and the best results can come from it. As you can see on this graph, with all the bars to the right, going up and to the right, meaning that once we hit 12 and 18 months, the results are far superior for those who've had tinnitus retraining therapy as opposed to just sound therapy alone. But you may not have even had any sound therapy, right? So we need to just really start with the basics and then work our way up from there. If you're new to sound therapy, let me demonstrate what it sounds like. like James had mentioned earlier, we want the sound therapy to be played at a level that's lower than it is so that your brain can get exposure and be conditioned that the constant sound of tinnitus is not a threat. It's not a danger. It's a known experience. It's not going to harm us or kill us or anything like that. The brain needs to be shown that over time, that tinnitus is truly a benign body sensation. And when it can be shown that over time and respond in that way at a subconscious level, which you can't force, then tinnitus starts to shift and you start to go towards stage 4 of habituation. So I'm going to play a sound sample of pink noise. If you're very sensitive to sounds, if sounds trigger you easily, then I would recommend turning the volume down or off for the next minute here. But I'm going to sample pink noise. And this is the kind of sound that we would play through these little high fidelity speakers in the tinnitus maskers. And these would be played through your ear canals, essentially on your ears. And this would mix in with your tinnitus. So as I said, the checklist here, number 1 is using sound therapy as a default. Well, we found that the tinnitus maskers are the most sustainable way to have sound therapy as a default. So let's now all listen to this pink noise. And I'm just going to let it play for about 20 seconds and notice how this audio demonstration is mixing the pink noise with your tinnitus. Here we go. So if you're new to tinnitus, if you're new to sound therapy, maybe that was the first time you've ever heard it. If you've played around with it for a long time, then hopefully this was also helpful just to demonstrate and remind us of the benefits of sound therapy. I chose pink noise because that's our common default sound that we would program inside of the tinnitus maskers. So I want to ask you all now, who here has used sound therapy before? I'm going to launch a quick poll. And if you've been to one of our discovery calls or another Zoom session like this, you may have answered this, but that's okay. I want you to answer again. You'll see a poll pop up on the screen. If you could go ahead and please answer all 4 questions to let me know who here has used sound therapy before and which kind of devices have you used to play the sound therapy. We have a sound machine, the tinnitus sleep headband, or tinnitus maskers and hearing aids. I see the Q&A is going off. Lots of great questions. Love to hear these questions and see them coming in. Let's see, who do we have answering questions? We have Dr. Garrett Thompson here, who's my brother and audiologist with Treble Health. So Garrett's doing a great job in there. Thanks, Garrett. And it's great to see you all here. We have 125 individuals, but it just shows us the impact and the importance of what we're doing here tonight. All right, so let's review the answers here of this poll. You can see them on the screen right now. And if you want to scroll down, you can see all of the answers. So about 2/3 of you have used sound therapy before, and 1/3 of you have not used it before. Definitely an opportunity there for those who haven't used it at all, right? Big opportunity. All right, 40% of you have used a sound machine before, 30% of you have used a tinnitus sleep headband, and 50% of you have used tinnitus maskers or hearing aids. So I'm sure that some of you are active patients with Treble Health. So I hope if you are that you've used all of these and responded yes. But if you aren't, then there is a big opportunity here to use sound therapy as part of your treatment. And thanks for responding to the poll here. Gives us a good sense of where you guys are at. All right, so let's go into the other points of this checklist. I recently asked Dr. Jasterboff I invited him onto the Tinnitus Relief Summit that we did a few months ago. And we had asked him, what's the one thing that is essential for everyone with tinnitus to get? And really what he said was to have all your questions answered, to have no more wondering, asking what if, lingering questions, anxieties, fears, concerns about tinnitus, and specifically about how your tinnitus that you're experiencing will affect you in your future. So I put this on the checklist here because if you can really do this every day, if you can have no question unanswered, if you can answer every question, if you can get your questions answered is the better way to put it, by a professional, by an expert, by someone who's either been through this themselves or who's an audiologist who knows how to guide people through this. If you can get your questions answered, then you're not feeding into those negative cycles of tinnitus with stress, anxiety, worry, concern, fear. So these are questions like, what if tinnitus doesn't go away? What if my hearing gets worse because of this? Will this tinnitus cause other health effects? Will my tinnitus ever get better? Will I be able to fly in an airplane? Will I be able to play loud music again? Will I be able to go to a concert? Do I always need to wear earplugs around loud noise? If I'm in your shoes, I don't have the answers to those questions. I can be hopeful, but I can also be scared, worried, concerned, fearful, or simply not know. And what really the true masters in this field have taught me is that when you don't give the negative feedback into the system, when you get your questions answered, and that's what professionals can do for you, or someone who's been through the process can do for you, or a very detailed scientific book can do for you, or a good YouTube video even can do for you. When you have your questions answered by a reputable source, you're no longer feeding into this limbic system, psychological negative loop of tinnitus, where there's anxiety, stress, concern, worry, more attention on tinnitus, louder tinnitus. So make this into your daily checklist. And if you haven't already, take a screenshot or write down some notes of this checklist. Let me know how it goes when you put it into practice. So number one, sound therapy as a default. The best way to do that would be with the tinnitus maskers in the ears, because you put them in and boom, sound therapy is your default. All you have to do is have them in, live normal life. You're having soothing sound therapy. That makes number one really easy. Number two, I've shared some strategies of how to get your questions answered and have no longer these questions lingering. Point three, have healthy habits. So there's two things you can do here. Number one is stop your unhealthy habits. And number two is start new healthy habits. So for example, a daily exercise practice, socializing, exercise, learning a new hobby or a skill, having something like reading or sports or arts and crafts or music or language, something that is productive, proactive, and healthy for your body, your brain, or socializing. Really just thinking of, okay, today I want to focus on a healthy habit. And when I was creating this, I almost wrote, have some positive distractions, but sometimes distraction can have a negative connotation, and it can feed into this story, this false belief that, oh, they say it's tinnitus treatment, but I think it's just getting used to it. And you've learned today that that's not what we're talking about. Tinnitus treatment is not just getting used to it or distracting yourself. Neither is sound therapy. But in some ways, to help promote this treatment, you having distractions in a healthy way can be beneficial. So there's no better distraction than a healthy habit, right? So for example, if I'm feeling really wrapped up in my tinnitus, really anxious, and I just stay in that, it's going to be harder for me to get out of that than say if I started to play pickleball every Tuesday and Thursday, like my mom does. right? My mom is, in the age of many patients that I work with or that we work with, and she started to play pickleball. Well, that's a positive, healthy habit. So instead of ruminating on tinnitus, we have something that's instead healthy, productive, and not focused on tinnitus. So it's in some ways a distraction, but really it's a healthy habit. All right, number 4 on this list is daily relaxation. You may have felt that stress can make tinnitus louder. It can make tinnitus worse. It can make it harder to deal with. Stress may have partly caused your tinnitus even. We know that stress reduction is helpful to promote habituation and relief. So daily relaxation is something I'm adding to my checklist here because I've seen it being a differentiator for so many patients that I just wanted to include it. This can include things like guided breathing, taking a warm bath, taking a walk, exercise. Those are some of the main ones that I see being helpful. We also heard today things like massage, different kinds of holistic or stress reduction type approaches. Those are all helpful and valuable as well. Yoga, Tai Chi, the list goes on, but really your job is to find something that relaxes you. And the mechanism here, the science behind this is that when you settle the mind and settle the body, there's both a top down and a bottom up communication of your nervous system. From the nervous system to your brain, the body can tell the mind, the brain's looking for signals, the mind's looking for signals. If the body, after a meditation or a guided breathing or a walk around your neighborhood, is feeling more at ease, more relaxed, calmer nervous system, then your brain starts to have a mismatch of the signal. Because if part of your brain is reacting to tinnitus like it's a dangerous sound, a threatening sound, but your body is in a relaxed state, then your brain gets that data and it starts to realize that sound of tinnitus must not actually be a threat or a danger because Ben is completely relaxed. So there's probably not actually a threat or a danger here. That's the bottom up, right? You calm the body. Well, it can help settle the mind a bit. Now, separately, you can get hopeful information about tinnitus, get your questions answered. You can use different cognitive, mind, and behavioral strategies that can then, from a psychological, cognitive perspective, put a different angle on tinnitus, and then it starts to send a message top down to the body to be at ease, to relax, because there is no imminent danger or threat here with tinnitus. So you can see the bottom up and the top down approach. And I found that daily relaxation is the best way to instill this bottom up approach, which is something you can do every day. Don't ever question that. You can choose to do a daily relaxation practice, even if it's just for 5 minutes. All right. And number 5 here is to optimize sleep. A few tips here. Take the hour before you try to fall asleep to really audit what you're doing. Please don't watch the news. Don't watch intense movies. Even try to not be in the room when your partner or family member is listening to things that really stimulate you for the hour before you fall asleep. Do things that relax you, settle your mind, calm your body, create the bedroom environment, which is dark, has good sound therapy with a sound machine or the sleep headband, and you're preparing yourself to have a good sleep, okay? Then I would recommend trying guided sleep audio, which can be really helpful if you're feeling anxious or if you have really loud tinnitus when you're trying to fall asleep. Guided sleep audio on YouTube, you can just search guided sleep audio and you'll get different tracks. I would recommend putting on one that's at least 40 minutes. And I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to fall asleep within those 40 minutes, or definitely the second round of repeat the track and have it go on for another 40 minutes. That works for a lot of patients to help fall asleep. I'll just start there and say that's where a lot of the optimization happens for sleep. The sleep, of course, affects your health the next day. It gives you the motivation to have healthy habits. It gives you the power to do daily relaxation. It allows sound therapy as a default to be easier. It allows you to get your questions answered and have more energy to do so. This is my tinnitus relief checklist. All 5 of these points are very important. When you can do them consistently every day, all 5 of them, and you're following the tinnitus retraining therapy protocol, then I really believe you're in a much better place. And I thank you for hearing out this checklist. At Treble Health, I want to explain a bit about our program because it takes these elements and it creates a system of how to follow them. So on the left here, you have the expert care with the audiologist. On the right, you have the sound therapy via tinnitus maskers. You've learned about the expert audiology care, the one-on-one sessions. On the right, you've also learned about the sound therapy with tinnitus maskers. So I want to talk a bit about what we offer at Treble Health. And for those who enjoyed hearing about the success stories of some of our patients today, as well as tomorrow, I want to introduce something that we offered, which is basically our tinnitus relief bundle, just explaining more details about that. First, let's talk about research. Everything we do is evidence-based, and we've even researched our own patients. So some of you have heard this before, but I want to bring it up again. So there's 176 individuals that came through our program that we measured the beginning of working with us, and then we measured 3 months after. Now, we see hundreds of people every month, but this is a sample that we measured. And we measured this with something called the Tinnitus Functional Index. This is an evidence-based questionnaire that's used to give tinnitus to measure tinnitus on a scale of 1 to 100. For a clinically significant improvement, we want to see anything over 12 points. The average reduction we saw within just 3 months was 21.5 points, which is definitely significant, and we're very happy and proud of that number. Another way to look at the data is that 69% of patients had a clinically significant reduction within just 3 months. And those numbers get better over time because you've learned tonight that the time window here for treatment can be between 6 and 18 months. So it is really an ultra marathon, and the results just compound over time. The effectiveness treatment rate of tinnitus is between 80 and 85% with tinnitus retraining therapy. That's what we're following, and we're seeing good results here within just 3 months. So if your doctor's ever said there's nothing you can do for tinnitus, that's definitely not true. It's not what we see at Treble Health. It's not what the research reports either. All right, so now's the time where I want to thank you for attending the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit. And for those interested in what we do at Treble Health, we are the sponsor of this summit. So I'd like to share more details about the Tinnitus Relief Bundle and a special offer that we have for the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. The core piece of the bundle is a pair of the tinnitus maskers. As we've seen, this is the absolute best tool for promoting habituation via sound therapy. These devices are discreet. They sit up and behind the ear with a thin wire going alongside the skin. And this rubber tip that goes inside of the ear canal, it has a high fidelity speaker that plays pink noise or other soothing sounds through both ears. And when patients wear these, they're often reporting that there's immediate relief. It helps them manage tinnitus. But what we really care about is that it helps promote the treatment effect, meaning it can shift the baseline levels of tinnitus over time. And that leads to results like you heard tonight with James saying, hey, my tinnitus is not only less noticeable, but it's actually softer. Now, we don't guarantee that for every single patient, but we want to give you the best chance, the best resources to have the most effective treatment possible. These are Bluetooth enabled. They're rechargeable. They can also be programmed as hearing aids. So if you have some hearing loss, then these devices can be programmed with some hearing aid features so that we give you the maximum tinnitus treatment possible. Sometimes treating a hearing loss with the treatment of tinnitus means that your tinnitus can actually find more relief in that way. The rubber tips that go in the ear canals here, these do not completely block and cover your hearing. So it's not like AirPods or headphones or earbuds. These do not block your hearing. You can still hear conversations. You can still hear sounds around you. It's just that additionally, you have the sound therapy coming through the devices. In addition to the tinnitus maskers, we also have 6 bonuses that come with the bundle. Bonus number 1 is the tinnitus sleep headband. There are these thin speakers that go inside this headband, and it can be helpful to fall asleep if you're having trouble. Bonus number 2 is Sound Oasis sound machine. It's our top rated sound machine for day and night. Bonus number 3 is 5 private video visits where an expert from our team, like you have met 3 of them tonight. Just so proud that we were able to feature 3 of our leading audiologists here on the summit. We will create a personalized treatment plan and track your progress over time with 5 private sessions over Zoom. Bonus number 4 is 6 group coaching sessions. And it's a program that meets every 2 weeks, led by audiologists. And you get to be in a group with others who are going through this tinnitus treatment process, ask them questions, have a supportive community. It's very beneficial. Bonus number 5 is you get priority email and text between you and your audiologist, and we respond within 1 business day. And finally, number 6 is the guided breathing and relaxation course. This is something that is used to help settle the mind, settle the body in relationship to tinnitus and another healthy habit. So this is the tinnitus relief bundle, and we're able to offer it for the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit to all of you. We have the tinnitus maskers plus 6 bonuses. The total value here is $34.50. It's quite a significant value. We really believe in this. To get started here for the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit, we are offering this for $212 per month for 13 months with a 0% interest on those low monthly payments. So that's something that is not only, manageable, but we wanted to take any risk off of the table. And we have a 45-day money back guarantee period. So there is this risk-free trial. Get started for $212 per month, and that's a 13-month period. There is a 45-day money back guarantee. Should you have any reason you wanted to return it, we're confident in what we do. And for any reason, you can return this for 100% refunds. How it works is if you're in the United States and you wanted to work with us or try this out for a risk-free trial, then you can reserve this now for $212. And then over these 13 months, you would have this $212 per month payment. Again, 0% interest there. And then after you reserve this, you would speak with an audiologist from our team to confirm the details. We would then ship the devices to your house. They would arrive within a week, and then you would get started. I'm going to launch a poll now to ask you all about your interest in the tinnitus relief bundle and the special offer that we're able to provide for the Tinnitus Triumphs Summit. So if you have just a moment, if you could answer these 3 questions on the pop-up, then I'll be able to direct those who are interested into next steps. And if at this point you're not interested and you've enjoyed the summit, just leave a heart here. Let us know, leave a thumbs up or anything like that, so that we know that you enjoyed this and you're all set for tonight. We did have someone earlier who was kind of trolling us by leaving some laughing emojis on the presentation, but I was able to stop that. So if that was you, I caught you. But now the emojis are back live. So thanks again for being here on the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. And for those who are interested in next steps with our team, we're going to be here for another 15 minutes or so, answering questions. So I'm really excited to stay here with you, answer any questions you guys have. And if you would like to sign up tonight for our program, then in just about 30 seconds, we're going to jump to the next slide where you can sign up and get started. The next step after you sign up is to schedule a time to meet with us, and then we'll ship the devices out really soon. So just really excited. And again, there is a risk-free trial of 45 days. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Garrett Thompson, who is here as an audiologist in the chat, answering all of your questions. And then also to Danielle Paulela, who is our marketing manager, who did a lot of work for the Tinnitus Triumph Summit. So thank you both. Let's now transition to, and we have a comment here in the chat that Garrett is on point. That's great. All right, guys. So next steps here, on the screen, you'll see 2 links. Garrett, if you can drop these in the chat, that'll be really helpful for us. There's 2 links here. So if you are ready to get started, then you can head over to treblehealth.com/offer. And for the individuals who said, yes, I will sign up tonight, then you can go over to treblehealth.com/offer and you can make that deposit amount of $212. And then you'll be signed up for our program and we'll get you onboarded and you'll have that one-on-one call to confirm all the details with the audiologist. So for those individuals, treblehealth.com/offer is where to go. You see the link in the chat right there. We'll make sure you have that just in case you didn't see it. I dropped that link in the chat as well. Start now, treblehealth.com/offer. If you said that you would be interested in the offer, but you're not ready to proceed or you can't proceed tonight, then I would like you to go to treblehealth.com/consult. If you are interested in what we do, but can't proceed because you have questions and would like to speak with an expert from our team, then you can schedule a time to do so. And you'll be able to speak with us either tomorrow, the next day, or Thursday or Friday. So basically this week you can speak with an expert from our team and ask specific questions you may have. That's available to you. If you're interested in the tinnitus relief bundle, we're able to offer the discount here. This is a lower rate than we normally have, but because you're here on the Tinnitus Triumph Summit, we're able to offer a lower rate. So again, if you are not ready to proceed, but have questions, then you can go to treblehealth.com/consult. And I just dropped that as well in the chat. I said, not ready, but have questions, sign up here, treblehealth.com/consult. All right, great. So I want to show you guys, those who are interested in proceeding, I just want to show you guys the webpage here. So I'm going to click the link and we'll go to that webpage here on my computer. This is what it looks like. This is our website. It has all of the details. It has everything that's included in the bundle. Nice little visual of the devices, how they look on the ears. And then there's 2 buttons here. The first button here is Start Today for $212. If you click that link, then you'll be directed towards this page where you can confirm the first month payment here for $212. You would just put in your shipping, billing, address, and some basic information. And then you would press pay. And the next step here would be you'd be directed through this process where we sign you up on our team, we connect you with one of our experts, and then we onboard you to next steps. That means getting these devices shipped out to you as soon as possible. And again, this is a 45-day money-back guarantee period. So it is a risk-free trial for you to use the treatment, for you to get the help. And if for any reason you weren't satisfied or wanted a refund, we would honor that 100%. The second option here, which we put in the chat, is for those who are interested but not ready and still have questions. You can sign up here, and I'm clicking the link, which will bring you straight to this sign up here on one of our calendars. So basically from here, you can pick a time. Tomorrow we have a lot of availability, so you can find a time tomorrow to speak with our team, and you can go ahead and book a time, come with your questions, any specific challenges you have, things we can help with, we'll be able to answer your questions about the tinnitus relief bundle. So that's the Tinnitus Triumph Summit special offer, something that we put together for all of you who are here, who may have been inspired by our other presenters and want to know, how can I get started with this? So I know Garrett's here in the chat. Garrett, if I'm going to put this back on full screen, if you could let me know any updates in terms of feedback, in terms of signups or questions. And yeah, I'll be here for the next 10 to 15 minutes answering questions. So I know that I need a drink of water because I just did a lot of talking. But again, shout out to Garrett Thompson, who's providing a lot of help here in the chat. And yes, this is for individuals in the United States. If you're outside of the United States, unfortunately, we're only able to practice audiology inside the United States. But hopefully this presentation, as well as our YouTube channel, is a great resource. And we are working on some offerings for the international community, like an app. So just stay tuned for that. That's coming soon, something that's important to us as well. Okay, Amy, thanks for your question. Amy asks, are the maskers Bluetooth enabled? They are. They are the leading tinnitus maskers that are available on the market. Essentially, what they are is devices that are worn on the ears. Your audiologist can program sound therapy, different sound therapy settings that you can adjust through buttons, as well as you can adjust through an app on your phone. Separate from that, they are Bluetooth enabled, so you can listen to any possible sound you could ever find on your phone. For example, different apps, YouTube, etc. You can stream those to the devices. So we have some popular sound therapy tracks on our YouTube channel, for example. Maybe you have some apps that are really helpful, and you can stream those via Bluetooth straight to your ears. And that's something that you can do in addition to using the sound therapy that we would set up for you and customize. Great questions. Any other questions? Any other follow-ups on that, Amy? All right, great. All right. Yep, we will have a replay available. It's actually on YouTube Live right now. If anyone wanted to go watch it right now, you could go to my YouTube channel and go under live streams, and then you can watch this from the beginning or jump to different sections. It's available right now on YouTube. Chonda, you asked if it's recommended to try biofeedback. I would say it's recommended to follow tinnitus retraining therapy. And once you have that in place, that's the foundation, right? Everything builds off of that. Biofeedback has helped other people with tinnitus. It's not typically a primary treatment approach, but it can be complementary. And if you had the foundational treatment set up and going well, then you could definitely try biofeedback. There's nothing wrong with that. I would say, to answer your question directly, what we offer is definitely better than biofeedback as a tinnitus treatment. Thank you. There was a question of how to go to our YouTube channel. It's Ben Thompson AUD, or if you just search Treble Health, then you'll be able to find it. Thank you. All right, everyone. So I just want to remind everyone, for those who said that you are ready to sign up tonight, then please go to treblehealth.com/offer, and you can sign up for the $212 that will get you started. and you'll then start this risk-free trial period. For those who said yes, but I can't proceed tonight, make sure you schedule a time to speak with our team to review what kind of questions you have. And for those who said you are interested, but you already have tinnitus maskers or hearing aids, we'll do our best to reach out to you and offer to work with us just for an appointment rather than the whole bundle. So that's an option. Yeah. So I'll be here for another 5 minutes answering questions, and just want to give a shout out to everyone here for being here on the Tinnitus Triumph Summit, sponsored by Treble Health. And we'll be around tomorrow as well for the guest presentations. All right, Chonda, thank you so much. We'll see you at that consult tomorrow. And Yvonne, we have more. We have another day of the Tinnitus Triumph Summit tomorrow. So we have 3 more guest speakers, and we have another presentation by myself. So that's what's going on tomorrow. You can check your emails for it's the same link. And yeah, just because you asked, I'll go back and show you exactly what's going on tomorrow. So tomorrow we have John talking about tinnitus and hearing loss, Loretta, hyperacusis and tinnitus, Melinda, navigating stress with tinnitus, and then myself talking about gold standard tinnitus treatment. All right, so to the 40 of you who are here live, just want to give a shout out and say thank you. Really appreciate all the love, all the questions.